Hello and welcome to another episode of Hollywood Wargaming, and today we are going to be continuing our Getting Started guide for Star Wars Legion by taking a look at what to buy first if you're looking to get started with the Rebel Alliance, who are, I realized when I started making this video, are a very daunting faction to nosedive into. They are, after all, a faction of ragtag freedom fighters scraped together from across the galaxy, and their unit selection in Star Wars Legion very much reflects that. They're not nearly as cut and dry as something like, say, a clone army led by a Jedi, or a Rogue One themed Imperial army, and your Rebel list are likely going to be pulling a lot of different units from a lot of different Star Wars media, which at times can look like a hodgepodge, and for new players it might be a little confusing as to which units should synergize with others. But have no fear, some random bloke on the internet is here to tell you what to buy. But that is going to bring me to the first disclaimer before we start this video, and that is the fact that this video is just a recommendation for new players to build a core foundation for their forces, one that's going to give them the assets to build a healthy, well-rounded 800-point list on which you can build the rest of your collection. So if there is a crazy fun unit that is the reason you're playing Rebels, but you don't see it on this list, it's probably because that unit is more of a cherry on top of your sundae, while this video is focusing more so on getting your ice cream in the bowl. But with that terrible analogy out of the way, my second disclaimer for you is that all the prices listed in this video are at MSRP, and of course US dollar, and with core sets being marked at half price, with the idea that you are either splitting it with someone else, or selling the other half of the box set either on eBay or a Facebook marketplace or something of the sort, which is of course going to keep your overall expenses down. Now, if you guys are just getting into the game on a budget, and you can't find another player to split the box set with, go check out one of my previous videos titled How to Break Down a Legion Core Set, as it will show you how much of a bundle these core sets actually are, and how to effectively hawk the other faction in the core set that you're not going to be playing, in this case Empire, which, if done properly, is actually going to bring down your expenses by a significant margin, especially in situations where I recommend buying multiple core sets. On top of that, it's worth mentioning that Rebels and Empire are the two oldest factions in the game, and a lot of their older kits do go on sale for very fair prices, including the original core set itself, which I have seen on Amazon as low as $60. But with those fun disclaimers out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about how this guide is going to work. Much like the previous two entries with the Republic and Separatist factions, I am going to recommend two different avenues of approach in which you can start collecting a Rebel army, and in each one we are going to have three different tiers, with tier 1 being the stuff that you really need to buy up front to get started in the game that will give you enough models to field a full 800-point list and start playing Star Wars Legion right off the bat, albeit with very vanilla list building options, but certainly enough to keep you entertained for a few matches while you start to understand the mechanics of the game and get a grip on the rules. And if you are getting into the game on a very tight budget, the first tier is more or less going to be your initial buy-in, which, like I previously mentioned, is going to get you just enough stuff to run a full 800-point list, which is the standard army size in Star Wars Legion. After that, we are going to have the second tier, which is going to help start fleshing out the foundation of your collection, which is going to start adding more variety and tools to your list building arsenal, and allow you to tweak your gameplay. Finally, we are going to have the tertiary tier, which is the one you're going to be getting if you're going all in right off the bat. And this tier tends to start introducing more complex units, such as vehicles and special forces, who are really going to start spicing up your list and allow for more specialized play. So again, to sum that up, we are going to have three different tiers that I would recommend you buy in at in relation to your budget, but do keep in mind that you are also going to need paint and hobby supplies, which tend to be a bit pricey when you're first getting into wargaming as a hobby and need to buy all that stuff right up front. On top of that, even if you can afford all three tiers, doesn't mean you have to. If you've never played a wargame before and you're not really sure if you're going to like it or not, or if you have trouble painting a lot of models and get overwhelmed when you have a ton of kits on your desk, then consider buying in at the first tier, dipping your toes in the water, and perhaps wait until you finish painting all of those models before buying more. But with all that jargon out of the way, we are going to move along and start taking a look at what to buy first when getting started with the Rebel Alliance. And once again, there are going to be two different build recommendations here, the first of which is going to be an army revolving around the basic Rebel Trooper, who are best fielded in large numbers, backing up a slew of heroes and or special forces. And with this build, I am going to recommend buying in on that first tier with 3 core box sets, which is going to net you Commander Luke Skywalker, 6 Rebel Trooper units, and 3 Rebel ATRTs. Now, I have these box sets listed at $50 each here, again for MSRP reasons, but really, you can always find this thing for at least 20% off. And when you consider the fact that you will likely be selling off those 2 extra Commander Lukes, these box sets are probably going to be coming in at way less than $50 each, especially if you are breaking down the box sets and selling the Empire half on eBay. But those 3 core sets are going to give you a very solid melee hero with Luke Skywalker, and enough Rebel Trooper units to the point where you're probably never going to have to buy another core unit again. And that is definitely something worth pausing and talking about for a moment, as unlike every other faction in Star Wars Legion, the Rebels don't really have too many appealing core trooper options, unlike units such as the Phase 2 Clone Troopers, B2 Super Battle Droids, or Shore Troopers, which means most Rebel players are going to be way more focused on the heroes and special forces that they take in their list, as they are much more likely to be the stars of the show, while your Rebel Troopers serve more as harassing units and objective cappers, which these 6 standard Rebel Trooper squads that you're going to get in these core sets are perfect for. After that, we are going to have the Rebel ATRT, which is by no means the most impressive unit in the game. However, they are very reliable, and the Rebels do make great use of 2 of their weapon upgrades, which can help take a lot of heat off of Luke Skywalker, who would otherwise stand out like a sore thumb. But after these 3 core sets, I am going to recommend that you go out and pick up another Rebel hero. And with this selection, I'm really not picky as to which one you get. You already have a powerhouse unit with Commander Luke, and whether you want to get a less expensive support commander or another brawling unit, there's not really too many ways you can go wrong. Though I will say, hold off on buying Operative Luke for this first tier buy-in. He is an absolutely fantastic unit, and I do think every Rebel player should own him at some point. But at this point in time, you are already going to have Commander Luke, and you're not going to be able to run them both alongside each other. And if you are jumping into the game at just this tier, you will need another hero to get this list up to 800 points. Now, I know I said you should get whichever commander you want to play, or whoever is your favorite character in the movies or shows, but I will give you my suggestions as to who I would go for and who I would probably stay clear of. Sabine, Cassian, and Leia are probably the 3 that stand out to me the most. Sabine because she is an absolute powerhouse of a unit, Leia because she is a very solid and affordable support commander, and Cassian because he comes with K2SO, meaning that you are technically getting 2 units in one box. After that, you are going to have characters like Jyn and Lando Calrissian, who I'm just pretty meh on, followed up by Han Solo, Chewbacca, and R2-D2, who I would suggest steering clear of unless you really want to play them. Han and Chewie seem to be a little bit lackluster, and R2 comes in that very expensive expansion, despite being an operative that doesn't have a very robust presence on the battlefield. But again, those are just my suggestions. But with 2 heroes, 6 trooper squads, and 3 support units, you are going to have a very solid foundation for your army. And while I do have the initial tier for this build listed at $165, keep in mind that is the MSRP prices I'm going off of. And going off of eBay prices that I see right now while I'm recording this video, you could easily shave $30 off this price I have it valued at. But next up, we are going to have our secondary tier here. And for this one, I actually recommend going pretty light and start off by picking yourself up another hero expansion. Again, this can be any hero of your choice, but I would recommend sticking with the ones I mentioned earlier. But this time around, go ahead and throw Operative Luke into that recommendation. He is certainly one of the best heroes in the game, though he can be very points heavy. But at this point, you've probably played 4 or 5 games already, and you're starting to notice that your opponents really like gunning down your heroes, and you need to start getting some more units in your army who can do some heavy lifting and overwhelm your opponent's threat assessment. That's why I'm going to recommend in this second tier that you go out and buy a Special Forces unit, and much like the heroes here, I'm not going to be too picky as to which one you go with, though I will go over each one and touch briefly on what I think of them. And first up, we are going to have the Rebel Pathfinders from Rogue One, and these guys are probably the least competitive here. They do have the ability to infiltrate and will synergize well with heroes like Jyn Erso, but overall they require a lot of finesse to play well, and as a new player fielding just one of these squads, you're probably not going to notice a whole lot of impact on the battlefield. Still, if Rogue One is your thing and you like infiltrating on the board for board control, this may be a good option for you. Again, they are going to synergize well with Jyn Erso if you chose her as one of your commanders. Just plan on buying another box of them in the near future, as they don't really operate very effectively unless, like the Rebel Troopers, they are fielded in numbers. After that, we are going to have the Mandalorian Resistance, an interesting box set that not only gives you 2 characters, Tristan and Ursa Wren, but also 2 ways to field the squad, with a litany of equipment to throw on them. Mandalorians are definitely a powerful, durable, hard-hitting squad, and if you purchase Sabine Wren alongside them, they are going to synergize very well, and will definitely be able to do a lot of heavy lifting alongside your heroes. After that, we are going to have the Rebel Commandos, who are probably the most competitive of the 4 Special Forces options here, but that is mainly because of their strike team configuration running the sniper rifle, which is a very useful tool to have in your list building arsenal. However, if you are a player who's looking for a big, strong powerhouse units, perhaps to fill the void if you went with a bunch of support commanders, you may not want to go with the Commando expansion, as you are rarely going to be running the full-size squad, and will more or less be buying this box for a 2-model unit. But lastly, we are going to have the Wookiee Warriors, and this is where things get really interesting, because we are getting a new Wookiee Warrior box, one that is going to include 2 units, the traditional melee Wookiee Warriors, and then also a ranged Kashyyyk Resistance squad. So if you're not really sure what you want to do with Special Forces and you like Wookiees, this might be the best option for you. That being said, I have a very strong hunch that the old soft plastic Wookiee Warrior kit is going to start going on a very, very deep sale once this new hard plastic kit is released. And that older kit is only going to give you the original Wookiee Warriors, who are a melee-based unit, without all the new upgrades that are coming in the new sets. However, these older Wookiee Warriors are arguably the better way to run the Wookiee Warriors, so in the near future, you may be able to get 2 of these soft plastic Wookiee Warrior kits for the same price as one of the new ones. And that will be another decision for you to make. Do you buy the one box set that is extremely versatile and gives you all of the new upgrade cards? Or do you buy 2 of the old soft plastic box sets, which is going to give you enough models to run 2 units at the same time, albeit much less customizable units? Certainly a perplexing situation, but I'll try and help break it down to you by saying this. Are you a bargain hunter and or on a very tight budget? Then keep an eye out for those soft plastic Wookiees going on sale. But if you're a player who is more of a completionist and is willing to spend more money to get a single unit that has more upgrades and consists of newer, better looking models, then go ahead and spring on that new dual faction Wookiee Warrior expansion. But that is going to wrap up our very mild secondary tier, which is only going to be $45 worth of extra units, bumping the total MSRP buy-in to $210, which again is definitely a highball estimate, but will move us along to our third tier. Again, the tier where you really start to add some spiciness to your collection, and here I am going to recommend starting off with yet another Special Forces box. And really, here is the beautiful thing about Rebels. Bar Pathfinders, this does not have to be the same unit that you previously purchased. If you grabbed a squad of Mandalorians with that previous box, perhaps consider picking up a box of Commandos so you can run that sniper strike team. Or if you have a squad of melee Wookiees and you want some close support from some more durable units, perhaps go ahead and pick up that Mandalorian box set and run Clan Wren. Really, the only Special Forces unit I would recommend doubling down on is going to be those Rebel Pathfinders, as they really don't want to be infiltrating halfway up the battlefield all by their lonesome. That being said, there is definitely something to be said about running 2 strike teams or 2 regular Rebel Commando squads. Once again, the choice is yours. Double dip on something if you really like them, or branch out and try something different. But that is going to move us along to the last unit I would recommend in this build, and that is going to be either the AA-5 speeder truck or the X-34 land speeder. Now, both of these are going to be heavy units in Star Wars Legion that are going to be more expensive, not just in the game, but in real life, coming in at $50 to $60. And while you may be able to find that land speeder for less, the AA-5 is very new, and it's not likely going to be dropping below $50 anytime soon. And that is unfortunate because the AA-5 is actually going to be the one that I'm leaning towards, as it is a full capacity closed transport, meaning it can move an entire squad across the field, and it comes with a lot of different upgrade cards in which you can equip it with that really influence how it plays on the tabletop. And this is where things get really iffy for the land speeder, as a lot of the things that make the land speeder great now are retrofit upgrades from the AA-5 expansion box. And while you don't necessarily need those cards in front of you to say that you have it equipped on the vehicle, it definitely is a good visual help, especially for new players. And that definitely is another minor blow to the land speeder. But hey, if you want a Tatooine technical, this is the unit for you. It is an open transport with capacity 1, meaning you can put one single model in there, i.e. a hero, but they can attack out of the vehicle while it maneuvers around the battlefield, which does allow for some pretty fun plays. So while I am definitely heavily leaning towards the AA-5, the land speeder certainly has its place, and I will ask you to think about which units you purchased prior to this to help determine which one you should get. If you have a squad of Mandalorians or Wookiee Warriors who would love to get in that truck and smash into your enemy's lines, it would certainly be fitting for them. However, if you have Jyn Erso and a bunch of Pathfinders deep striking into the enemy territory, and you want another hero, perhaps Commander Luke, to blitz up on his own and back them up very quickly, the Landspeeder may be the route for you. But with the tertiary tier wrapped up, it is going to come in at a total of $300 MSRP, again a very high estimate, which is one of the more expensive buy-ins I've done on any of these videos. But I gotta say, you are going to have an incredibly robust collection at this point, and you could probably just go on to collect a bunch of Commander and Operative expansions from here, and those alone are going to keep your list and playstyle from getting too stale. And honestly, I gotta say, if you do want to buy all of this up front, you could potentially even drop one of those core box sets, which would drop the overall MSRP value down to 250, and still give you well over 800 points worth of models. But that is going to wrap up our first army build for getting into the Rebel faction, and move us along to an alternative route to start collecting Rebels, one that is going to be geared towards those players who want to invest a little bit more into their core trooper units, and not take the Horde-like approach of running 6 Rebel trooper squads. And right up in our first tier here, we are going to have a singular core set. These are pretty much necessary to get into the game, and really they are a fantastic bundle that is going to give you those 4 units, being Commander Luke, 2 core Rebel Trooper squads, and an ATRT. After that, you're going to go out and buy 2 squads of Rebel Veterans. Now, Rebel Veterans are a little bit better than Rebel Troopers, and each of these box sets is actually going to include 2 units. The first, of course, being the Veterans themselves, along with a medium blaster support team, who will synergize very well with those Veterans. And these boxes are going to be coming in at $30 per unit for a total of $60, but when combined with that starter set is going to give you a full 6 core units that you can field, coming in at just $110. And while those veteran units are going to be more of a points investment, giving you less overall models on the field, their presence will certainly be felt more than your standard Rebel Trooper, and you will be able to count on them to do a little bit more heavy lifting than other core options. But if you are buying in at just this first tier here, that will leave you very shy of 800 points, and that's why I am going to recommend that you go out and buy 2 more hero expansions right off the bat. As they usually range from $12 to $20, these hero and operative expansions are very affordable, and Rebels make great use of running multiple of them in a list. They are, after all, the faction of heroes that we know and love from the movies. But even with 2 of them here, I would say stay away from Operative Luke until the next tier, as you will likely be needing to run all 3 heroes to reach that 800 point stretch if you're buying in with just this tier. But coming in at $140 MSRP value, you are going to have a pretty robust hero-heavy list that's going to have a much more minimalist, albeit more powerful, core foundation, made up of those Rebel Troopers backed up by those Rebel Veterans, who are in turn backed up by their support medium blasters. And that is going to move us along to our secondary tier, and this should look pretty familiar to you. Actually, both the second and third tier are going to be the exact same as the previous guide buy. Rebels really are a super unique faction, one that is bolstered by heroes, who in turn like running alongside other beefed up Special Forces units. And as long as you're following a basic skeletal structure, you can have a pretty big stew list that combines a lot of different heroes and Special Forces units from across the Star Wars media. Just make sure you have enough basic troopers to fill in the gaps between those powerhouse units. And overall, a skilled commander should be able to make these relatively independent units operate in harmony on the battlefield if they know what they're doing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this Legion hobby guide, and if you are a new player, I really hope this guide helped you get an idea on how to get started with Rebels, as even I was a little intimidated on how to make this video when I first started off. They are a bit of a bizarre faction in how their units synergize, and running Hoth troopers alongside Wookiees and Mandalorians feels a little bit funky, but really does pan out at the end of the day with this very eclectic faction. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Is this a good way to get started with Rebels? What would you do different? Or how did you start off differently? If you're a new player and have any questions, please leave them in the comment section down below. If you are an experienced player and you see new comments, go ahead and reply to them, give people advice. As always, be helpful and explain to them in detail how things work. And if you want to see more content like this, consider subscribing to the channel, turning on notifications, leaving a like, and until next time guys, as always, take care.